Okay, so I have some thoughts about this, and I feel like it reflects a type of way on the ACOTAR fandom as a whole, and it explains why at least the mainstream parts of this fandom don't really understand how power works and how privilege works in this society. So it's been a while since I cracked open Akamath, but the general consensus is that when Nesta meets the Night Court, she doesn't really get on with them right away, and they're very like hostile towards her. One, because they know that she is a huge part of why Feyre had to go out in the woods and like be a kid and risk her life every day to make sure her sisters were fed. Okay, fine. But then there's also this added element of Nesta's being racist towards them that's in the Akamath book that I remember very distinctly because I remember being like, what? And Cassian's giving her shit, and like the implication is that Nesta's being a bigot to the Night Court. But at that time, Nesta's a human. Nesta is not the person with power in that situation. Nesta and Elaine showed up at that dinner as the only two humans who are in a position to help these Fae people. But, historically, the Fae used to eat humans. They used to enslave humans. Of course, Nesta's feeling a little, hostile at the moment. And you think Cassian would know that because Cassian's a member of a society of a species of Fae that is not considered to be high Fae and does get a lot of prejudice towards them. And the country is horrifically underfunded, this is not a Cassian slander post, oh my god. But it's those interactions with Nesta that kind of, for lack of a better word, ruin her for the Night Court. And I just don't think that that's fair, because these are supposed to be the progressive people of Prythian, whatever. They're supposed to understand where she's coming from. But of course they don't, because they're idiots. But back to Morrigan here. When Morrigan says that shit about, Nesta reminds her of the people who, tortured and mutilated her, she is comparing a admittedly hostile human girl to the upper echelons of Night Court society, and I just don't think that that's fair. And that's, on an individual level. I just genuinely don't think that comparing a human girl with an attitude problem is fair to compare her to the people who orchestrated or actually did, put a nail in your uterus. Those things are just not the same. But on a macro level, I feel like that's a lot of smoke for Morrigan to be throwing around when she is canonically the only person to have escaped the Court of Nightmares, and she hasn't done anything to help them. For all my shit talk of Cassian, he does seem to be, out of all three of the Bat Boys, the person who is the most connected to his Illyrian heritage and is the most invested in their success. Is he successful in helping them? Not in any meaningful way, but there's lip service. He's trying. Morrigan doesn't do any of that, and it infuriates me because it's kind of you were worthy of saving, but how many other women or children or men, for that matter, are in the Court of Nightmares and did not have her opportunities, did not have her connections to get out? Really, how many more Morrigans are there in the Court of Nightmares, and why doesn't she care about them? At least when Nesta turns Fae and she is given access to the Fae privilege, so to speak, she speaks up for humans at the High Lord's meeting or whatever in Akawar. She does put her money where her mouth is. And I think the other reason why Morrigan comparing Nesta to her tormentors is not the same as Ember comparing Rhysand to her tormentors is that Morrigan's commenting on her own experience. Ember is witnessing somebody else's. She is an outsider looking in. Morrigan, for her part, has always been an insider to this society. She's always been an insider to this group. So her biases are well in place. Whereas Ember, she's brand new. She literally didn't speak the language until they gave her the magic bean. So she has more of an objective outsider perspective on it. And I think that's fairer than Nesta already being biased towards Feyre and not giving a shit about Nesta's plight at all. And even the book narrative doing this thing where it acts like Nesta's the racist when she's really not. Systemic racism or perpetuating systemic racism is privilege plus power. Nesta doesn't have any privilege being a human. These people were chattel to the Fae not that long ago in Faye living memory, and she doesn't have any power. She no. I don't know. It just there's just something about that makes Morrigan's comparison of Nesta to the Court of Nightmares feel really, really, really unfair, because it feels like the whole framing of that situation is just all wrong. Because I remember reading that scene for the first time and being like, "What the fuck? Like, are you kidding me?" But no, there really is a difference, because Morrigan is speaking as a person of privilege and power about the experience of like a human girl who is, essentially like a couple hundred pages at that point away from the most harrowing experience of her life. And that Nesta's closer to Ember in that moment than Morrigan could ever dream to be. And this isn't meant to be Morrigan slander. We don't have her perspective yet, besides like a couple of little bits in A Court of Frost and Starlight. We really don't know her deal yet. So I'm hoping that she does like pop off as a character. We get like the sapphic representation that this book sorely needs. I'm afraid though. I'm genuinely afraid for her.